Hi, this is Nicholas Bell with Ion Cinema, here to review West Side Story, Steven Spielberg's first musical, which of course is a remake of the 1961 film directed by Robert Wise and Jerome Robbins, also who choreographed that film, and that of course was based on the 1957 musical with music by Leonard Bernstein and lyrics by Stephen Sondheim and Robbins' choreography, all of which are kept intact for Spielberg's version, which kind of makes one question why exactly we would make this film set in the same era as the first film, because this of course was an adaptation of Shakespeare's Romeo and Juliet updated to the mid-50s. So it's interesting to ponder why perhaps we're still set back there. Of course, if you're going to use the same lyrics and music, which are very much tied to that era, that makes sense. Of course, there's more correct casting this time around, with Rachel Zegler making her screen debut as Maria, which of course was infamously played by Natalie Wood in the original film version. Ansel Elgort is her Tony, and they are the star-crossed lovers in this tale about the Sharks and the Jets. The Jets being kind of the hodgepodge of white denizens still in this area that's going to be demolished and become Lincoln Center, that we know it is today, and the Sharks, which are the Puerto Ricans, and they're vying for control over this neighborhood, even though Spielberg really drills down into how they're all going to be displaced eventually and very shortly. Anyhow, there's a local dance put on that's trying to integrate these two disparate groups, and Tony, who's been recently released from prison and has kind of tried to distance himself from the Jets, now run by his best friend Riff, played by Mike Faist, he's instantly smitten with Maria. And we all know how that story goes. That only heightens the tension between the groups, who decide to have one grand fight, and whoever face off, breakdance fighting, and whoever wins this melee will then have control of this area that will be taken out of all of their hands anyhow. Of course, that ends in tragedy because Riff dies. We know Bernardo dies, this time played by David Alvarez. And this all ends, of course, in a grand tragedy. Rita Moreno, who won her Oscar playing Anita in the first film, this time is playing Valentina, modified from the original film as Doc, aka Friar Tuck, who runs a pharmacy, has left it to his wife Valentina. So they play with that, and there's one really interesting scene with Ariana DeBose, who's playing Anita this time around, where these two women have a face-off, and I think there are interesting layers that can be unpacked there. But other than that, a lot of the things remain the same, if you will, and you kind of want Spielberg to shake it up a little bit. There is trans representation. Iris Menas plays a character named Anybody's, who's really lobbying to be part of the Jets, and they call them out for not representing their gender, but then come to accept them, which is interesting, but seems kind of lost here because none of the Jets ultimately feel sympathetic, especially in this version, which doesn't really do a good job of trying to show these groups as demeaned equals, crabs in a bucket. It's just always very clear that the white Jets kind of have the upper hand over the Puerto Rican Sharks, so none of that kind of tends to make any sense. I think Rachel Zegler does just fine, but I think she's a little outshone by Ariana DeBose as Anita, who's just breathtaking, and one of the best sequences of the film is her singing America. And that's another thing. There was a lot of ghost singing going on in the original film. In this film, all of the principals are singing their own songs. I think Ansel Elgort is surprisingly adept at playing Tony. There's a lot of charisma and energy there that I guess I just wasn't expecting, considering some of his past work. I think the screenplay, this time written by Tony Kushner, also has some nice beats to it. Mike Faist was interesting. I think Rita Moreno, it's nice to see her, and I think they use her in compelling ways. Not everybody fares the best. I think Stoll seems a little out of place here as Lieutenant Schrank. But overall, you can't go wrong with the music or the choreography. And again, it will probably, if you're seeing West Side Story for the first time, you'll probably fall in love with the music. But it just seems like so many more interesting choices could have been made, I think. And I don't know if Spielberg, and it's beautifully shot. It's a great looking piece of film by Janusz Kaminski, who of course shot Schindler's List and Minority Report for Spielberg previously. But I just think that maybe somebody else would have had kind of a more different angle or take on this material. And of course it arrives right after Sondheim has died, which kind of makes it seem a little more melancholic than it is. Overall, I would give West Side Story 3 out of 5 stars. Thank you.
Hey, this is Eric from IONCINEMA.com. If you want to support us, subscribe below. For more reviews, interviews, film festival coverage from Sundance, Cannes, Toronto, you want to check out these guys on this side.